All right, everyone, we are back for another edition of Benchmark Blitz with Laura Pattison. Now, it's been a while since we've done a Benchmark Blitz. However, enough time has passed to mandate another episode of counting through some data. So, this episode, we're going to recount some data for the first half of 2024. There's a lot to cover. Laura, I think it would be fitting to introduce yourself for the people that are part of the show that don't know you yet. And then as long as you introduce yourself, and then we can get through some benchmark data.
Absolutely. Thanks, Cam. My name is Laura Pattison. I am the Senior Director of Strategy and Insights at Teikametrics. I have been with the company for 4.5 years and in the space for 9, supporting PPC efforts and on paid search, paid social marketplaces. Really excited to dig into some Amazon and Walmart data today to help you benchmark your own performance and decide how you stack up, as well as provide opportunities and insights to the industry trends.
Yep, this data is very useful to kind of determine where you stand against the market as a whole. It's also really useful to understand big movements that are happening on Amazon, on Walmart, which are representative of the market and beyond. And this discussion, and if you're listening to this, I would encourage you to watch some of this at certain points because there are visuals included. Thank you, Laura, for providing these visuals. But the data pairs well with some of the visuals on a slide deck, and you'll see that in this video and on this podcast. But we'll also be talking through some of this data. So, Laura, let's jump in. I think the conversation starts with a comparison between or with Amazon and Walmart together. And then later on, we can kind of dive into each of these marketplaces individually. So, Laura, where do you think we in this discussion? I think efficiency in general is maybe a good place to start. But where do you think this discussion starts in this comparison of Amazon and Walmart and how they performed in H1?
Yeah, I guess I'll go ahead and share the visuals that we've teased. If you are listening, we'll definitely try to be as descriptive as possible. So efficiency is the one that every advertiser is using at least as a benchmark, if not their primary goal, in terms of performance. So we are continuing to see that Walmart efficiency comes at a premium to Amazon's. However, Walmart efficiency has been declining over really the last 6 quarters, primarily over the last year. We have this broken down by quarter, but we'll look at H1 year over year, where we saw a decline in Walmart's efficiency of 11% for H1 year over year. For Amazon, that was a slighter decline at just 4% year over year. So Amazon, is a lot more stable in that sense. Makes sense. Amazon is a more established marketplace. Walmart is seeing a greater increase in competition because it's a newer marketplace and more brands are joining. And so, we see that decline, but that's totally expected, especially since it's still coming at a premium.
So there's nothing necessarily out of the norm here. This is in line with perhaps what some might say is expected. Like this trend is not new based on years past, based on quarters past.
Not new. I mean, no, not for quarters past, and also not for a new and emerging marketplace. I know that seems crazy when we talk about Walmart being an emerging marketplace when, Walmart has been around in terms of brick and mortar for a very long time, but Amazon definitely is more established in terms of the online marketplace instance itself. So yes, as more competition is joining Walmart, more brands are joining and selling on Walmart, competition is increasing, and we're seeing that decline. We are also seeing that decline a little bit because advertisers are getting smarter in the way that they're structuring campaigns and having more control with their Walmart campaign structure. Without negatives, it is very easy to continue to match to your own brand terms and have less control over that. And so we don't see as clean of a campaign structure on Walmart without those negatives. As we continue to get more sophisticated with advertising, we are increasing the volume of data on that we're pulling in from non-brand competitor and other upper funnel tactics, which is allowing us incremental sales. So that is another element as well. Honestly, I think it's a very positive thing, that we're getting those controls and that we are starting to get more parity. It means we're able to get more aggressive and find success with growth on Walmart.
Yeah, that's good. What about so broadly, we're talking about ROAS right now. CPCs is usually a pretty hot topic for a lot of people and the big question people have. So what about CPCs for both Amazon and Walmart?
Yeah. Great tee up. Next slide is in fact that CPC view, and it is increasing.
Yeah, wow.
They are, yeah, it does, and I'm sure this is painful, but I think every brand is feeling this. So you are not alone.
Mm.
And I just want to highlight, we did see those increases from Q1 to Q2 last year, and then they stabilized a little bit in Q3. Of course, we saw the Q4 increases. That's never going to go away. I'm sorry. But it is continuing from that baseline of Q4 a little bit. We saw some stability from Q4 into Q1, and then that increase into Q2. We start to see some seasonality in the spring for a lot of brands, so it's not a surprise that CPCs are increasing coming out of Q1 and into Q2. But they do continue to be on the rise for both Amazon and Walmart. I know we've said, competition, maybe more brands aren't necessarily joining Amazon. There's a little bit more stability there, but that competition that is there is continuing to turn up the heat.
Yeah, this is interesting. I mean, I think part of the fear a lot of brands have is whether, is it inevitable that CPCs are just going to be increasing forever? And forever is a long, long time, but
Sure.
it's forever. But things like this, I think, it kind of help people feel that fear and legitimize perhaps that fear that it will increase. I don't know if you have something to help calm people down from this or an explanation to help kind of round this out, but I'm curious what you think.
I don't know that I'm going to calm anybody down with this, but there is
Okay.
a breaking point, right? There's a point where it doesn't make sense for anyone to continue to spend more on advertising based on the return that they're getting and the margins that they have. Even loss leaders, there's a point where that doesn't even make sense anymore. And so there's got to be a point where that just doesn't make sense, or you're starting to see, brands stop advertising and then competition decreases. And so there will be a balance point.
Yeah.
It's where does that come? I mean, transparently, and I know we said we'd be descriptive with this for those of you listening, I apologize. Walmart CPCs increased 24% year over year in H1, and Amazon CPCs increased 17%. So we are talking a pretty notable increase. Now, with that, we did see sales per click increase 10 and 12% on Walmart and Amazon, respectively. So I do want to highlight the value of the click has also been increasing over the past year, which means either your conversion rate is increasing or your average order value is increasing. And so we base what we want to pay for a click based on the value of a click. That makes sense. And so as we see sales per click increase, we would be willing to pay more. So seeing CPCs increase in isolation looks really, really scary. When you take it with some context that the value is increasing, that's important. But I also recognize I said that sales per click are increasing 10 and 12%, while CPCs are increasing 24 and 17%. So there is still a premium above and beyond, that efficiency. That's why that efficiency is declining a little bit, is brands are having to pay a little bit more than the value is increasing.
Sure. But that is this SPC, which again, this would be very helpful if you're watching this, but the increases in SPC is a helpful thing to really take note of when thinking about the increase in CPC. To me, this is saying people are still buying, the value of the click is still there, but the cost of that click still, well, like you said, is increasing faster than the sales per click value.
Right.
So perhaps it's not, it's just good to keep in mind all of this as you're thinking about like the perhaps some might say like the doom and gloom of the CPC. SPC is seems to be a really good thing to keep in mind as you're thinking through all of this.
Absolutely. And if you're using any bidder, or even if you're bidding manually, you should be using this metric. So you should be seeing and understanding how that's working for your brand, even individual targets and products, how that breakdown is working between brand, competitor, and generic targeting in terms of that value of the click. So absolutely. In terms of, again, hopefully alleviating some concerns, I do just want to call out, I know Prime Day is coming up. Make sure you have your budgets and your bids in place. But we did see those CPCs stabilize a little bit more in Q3 last year. So hopefully there's a little bit of a reprieve for the next 3 months until we head into Q4.
That's a really good call out. I think it's interesting also that CPCs are more, just comparing these two, CPC and SPC. CPCs are more for Amazon, but SPCs are valued higher for Walmart. That's an interesting comparison.
Yeah, it is. And that breaks down into conversion rate and AOV, and where is that higher? So we'll dig into that a little bit more as we get into those individual sections.
Okay, so let's talk about Walmart first then. So zooming in on Walmart, talking about efficiency first again, what did you make note of as you were digging into this data?
Yeah, I mean, the efficiency, again, this is a little bit different of a view where you can see that gap between H1 of last year and this year. So seeing that 11% decline in efficiency, again, not necessarily the worst thing. Sales per click increased 10% and efficiency declined 11%. So there's definitely a gap there. The volume of traffic on Walmart advertising did increase. So this could be a myriad of reasons. Number one, advertisers are getting more aggressive. Number two, there are more placements available, and so more traffic is coming through ads, which should alleviate CPCs potentially in the short term. If there's more inventory available for the increase in competition, it should level out a bit. But if more competition is coming in and placements remain the same, it's going to get more competitive for those placements, those ad placements. But we are seeing volume increase, which is a really positive thing as well.
It's good. And CPCs, what about CPCs and SPC for Walmart specifically?
Yes, so we did take a look at that. Those CPCs are definitely increasing, as we mentioned, up about 24% for Walmart year over year. So pretty significant. But sales per click has increased as well. While AOV is down slightly, conversion rate has been up on Walmart.
Interesting. So comparing all of this, how do you think sellers should be thinking about what's your main takeaway as an advertiser for Walmart in H1 2024, knowing all this?
Oh, a couple things. Number one, and I've said this before, sometimes I feel like my recommendations are a broken record, but if you haven't heard them, if you're not on Walmart now, you need to probably hop on Walmart. There is always a first mover advantage in terms of getting your ranking, getting established, making sure brand awareness is there for your Walmart shopper, getting your strategy established and making those optimizations. Getting in sooner than later is so critical, especially as competition is increasing. So that's one of my biggest takeaways is if you're not there, hop on quickly. I know that, efficiency declining and CPCs going up. You're like, well, why would I join that? You can still find, it's good to get your foot in the door now.
Yeah.
Ultimately, I think most of this data shows that it is an increasing, the marketplace is becoming more sophisticated. There's more trust built into it. Even the conversion rate indicates to me a little bit that people are more confident in purchasing online from Walmart than they were before, or they're more confident purchasing through the ads. The ads are actually, really accelerating that, where it might have taken them more time and they would have gone back through organic or something else. So I think there's a lot of confidence in Walmart based on the data that we're seeing.
Yeah, and that Walmart is pouring resources into enhancing the experience for shoppers and advertisers as well. I think the data makes that clear too. I think conversion rate speaks to that. Other things speak to that as well, maybe SPC as well. But yeah, it's interesting to compare and deep dive into this. Let's talk about Amazon specifically next. I think that was a good touch on Walmart. Efficiency specifically for Amazon. What do you think?
Yeah, efficiency is down a little bit, but still, pretty stable. I would say that, around a 5 to 5.5 is, pretty stable place for again, an even more sophisticated marketplace,
Yeah.
more established marketplace where competition is higher. There's going to be less movement overall in terms of large, significant data points, just because, um, there's a little bit more at that breaking point, right? CPCs are not going to increase as much, because brands can't withstand it, advertisers can't withstand it, and continue to make sense of advertising, or even selling on the marketplace. So this, indicates exactly what we would expect. Everybody knows and shops on Amazon. It's not just a bookstore anymore. It's the one of the largest marketplace in the US. And so we are actually also seeing sales per click increase on Amazon. So the value of the click is increasing as well. And this is, I'm actually going to skip it over CPCs and come back to it. We're actually seeing AOV increase on Amazon and conversion rate. So again, people are buying more on Amazon, whether it's more expensive products, but they're converting at a higher rate. And so overall, just continuing to see acceleration in terms of buying behavior on
Yeah.
Amazon.
Yeah, this is really interesting. And these even smaller percentages of increase or decrease, to me, mean a little bit more on Amazon compared to Walmart, just because of the size of e-commerce sales on Amazon compared to Walmart. And there have been interesting statistics to compare people doubling down on certain categories in Walmart compared to Amazon as well. And the difference, this data doesn't dive into that, like categorical data. That's a whole different discussion. But I think this is interesting. What's your take then on, you had a really good take on Walmart for each one. What's your take on what's happening for Amazon then, knowing that like conversion rates going up, AOV, how AOV has responded, sales per click is increasing, even in the midst of CPCs increasing? What do you think? What's happening on Amazon?
Yeah, so AOV increased 4%, conversion rate increased 9%, which is not a small amount, an
Yeah.
almost 10% increase in conversion rate. I'll take that every single day. So that's a great acceleration. I think one very interesting point here is the release of AMC and the
Mm.
ability to understand more where there is overlap or where there is potentially wasted ad spend, and continuing to get more sophisticated and reducing irrelevant spend or irrelevant advertising efforts, and really honing in on how am I even reaching incremental the most efficiently? How am I getting in front of advertisers? How am I removing those higher frequency in front of the same customer, and starting to spread out to increase that? And I think we'll continue to see brands dial in really well with that data, especially search and DSP data, making sure that we're stretching the dollar as far as it can go in terms of advertising. So I do think that that's one pretty notable call out. I also think conversion rate speaks to inventory and making sure that the product that they want you have to sell them. And so I think that, we're well out of COVID now. And I think that a lot of brands have really made sure that their inventory management is a much healthier place. And so conversion rate, I don't know that that's going to drive it 9 to 10%, but it definitely has a positive impact.
Yeah, I find it interesting what Amazon is helping, or is releasing, or creating or innovating to help advertisers and sellers as well. Like to a degree, Amazon wants, and to a degree, Amazon wants advertisers to succeed, right, and to have put their products in front of shoppers that want what they have to sell. And I think what they're releasing, perhaps some generative AI tools and aspects, are helping sellers and advertisers do things more intelligently. Things that we're doing are helping advertisers do things more intelligently, and I think the data kind of helps show where that's headed. So even as seemingly I see both Amazon and Walmart playing into this, even as competition is increasing and more sellers and advertisers are coming onto the platform, more people are selling and advertising more intelligently. They're finding customers more intelligently, and that's reflective in the data, perhaps in conversion rate, or shoppers are just still buying,
Yeah.
who knows exactly what I mean, compared to this data, it's not categorical, but it's an interesting back and forth. I find this to be an interesting back and forth in data for both of these marketplaces.
For sure. I mean, I think there's so many things that you can't leave off the table. It's we mentioned inventory. We've mentioned, you mentioned the sophistication of, and I've said that word a lot, but Walmart cleaning up or improving the experience on the platform and making it a stronger experience, making sure the PDP is really crisp and the
Yep.
experience is strong and people have the confidence to purchase. Let's not forget about the economy. There's a lot of different factors that play into a 4 or 9% increase, right? There's so many different things that can add a quarter of a percentage point, even down to things like Amazon marketing stream, where we're looking at conversion rate throughout the day. And so even our flywheel bidder is saying, oh, conversion rate is stronger at 3 p.m. I'm going to bid a little bit more here. I'm going to drive more traffic at a stronger conversion rate. Even that is going to influence the data that Teikametrics is referencing here, because it's all based on our data set as well. So speaks to the health of bidding optimization and strategies too.
Yeah. Economy, big factor. You mentioned this before. Election year, also a significant factor. The last question here. This has been a great analysis, a blitz, if you will, of the data. But I'm going to ask you to just give a couple thoughts. No hands tied here on what you think is going to happen in H2 based on this data and also based on years past data as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, if we go back to, sorry if you were watching this, back to those CPCs, while I don't anticipate in the next couple weeks through Prime Day, I don't think those CPCs are going to calm down at all. I do anticipate that Q3 CPCs will stabilize from where they were at Q2. We'll see those increase again in Q4. I do think that Amazon's most recent update and release around their section that will compete with the Temus of the world could throw an interesting wrench in the data and performance. That's one that I don't know that I would even prepare to predict at this point. But the CPCs I think will stabilize in terms of ROAS. We often see that stabilize as well, because while the sales per click are increasing, especially in Q4, where advertisers are paying more for it, brands are paying more for that valuable traffic. And so they're able to stabilize, but then their volume obviously is increasing, their volume of sales and traffic. And again, I don't want to discount the role that AMC can play in finding inefficient ad spend and helping brands to reallocate it. So as people get more sophisticated with their AMC strategies and the data that they're using, and again, this is going to be more specifically for Amazon than Walmart. I know Walmart is working to release a similar platform or data platform. So I think that we'll continue to see brands get more sophisticated with their strategies. But I do anticipate, in terms of efficiency and CPCs, a pretty similar trend year over year.
Yep, I like it. I think this is a great breakdown. I think we blitzed through this a little. It was a little more blitzy than the first one, which is not a bad thing. The first one was great. This one was even blitzier. So I think that we covered a lot of really good data here. I think this gives room for listeners to really mull things over and think about what actions they want to take because of this data. And I would encourage people to listen in or watch through this again, because I think it's really valuable. So Laura, all that being said, this is incredibly, incredibly valuable. Thank you for putting all the time into putting this together, for digging through the data. Really significant. And thank you for coming on and talking through it as well. Huge help. And we hope to see you again for the next Benchmark Blitz. Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Cam.